Today we're at Nostell in West Yorkshire, home to the Wynne family. The Wynnes made their money in the textile trade in London and invested it in land in the north of England. In the 18th century they built this house, not just as a more spacious and comfortable home, but because having a grand and fashionable house in the latest taste was an important way to progress in society. The results were spectacular, but the cost was huge. The legacy is one of the greatest treasure houses in the care of the National Trust. What did the Wynnes want their dream house to look like? Perhaps there are clues in this doll's house. It was owned by Susanna Henshaw, wife of Roland Wynne, the builder of Nostell, and it dates to around the time the house was begun. It shares features with the full-sized house, such as the family coat of arms and the Wynne eagle crest over the fireplace. A doll's house like this wasn't a toy, but rather a masterclass in craftsmanship. Unlike the doll's house, the Wynnes' grand house building project was never finished. Susanna Henshaw died in 1742, probably as a consequence of complications in childbirth, and her husband gradually abandoned his project at Nostell. The next generation took up the grand house building project, but this time with even more extravagant ideas. Centre stage was Thomas Chippendale, one of the most important designers and furniture makers of his day. Chippendale's great library desk was the centrepiece of this room, the design of which is inspired by classical learning. The library wasn't just a place to store and read books, but it was for show. The desk is more like a piece of architecture than an item of furniture, although in part its depth is for storing folios, engravings and other large items. Education was a privilege, and the library was about privileged access. This cabinet was used to store coins, medals and seals. It's a unique piece of Chippendale. Almost all 18th century mahogany was later French polished, giving it the glassy finish and chocolatey colour we know today. This cabinet still has its original oil finish, although it was embellished with the use of a red dye. It gives us a rare insight into how mahogany originally looked and what made it such an attractive wood. Chippendale described his designs as both elegant and useful. He supplied everything from chopping blocks to whole interiors, like this one in a Chinese-inspired style. Furniture like this dressing table looks beautiful from the outside. Inside reveals a world of complex design and fine detail. Chippendale also supplied this Chinese wallpaper for these rooms. It was originally much more colourful, but has tarnished, mainly due to atmospheric pollution. When we removed this pier glass for conservation, we found scraps of paper behind, showing the original colours. In this room we have a cabinet fit for a king. It was made in France around 1670, possibly by Pierre Gaulle, who made furniture for Louis XIV. It came to Nostell as an inheritance at the end of the 18th century. While the doll's house is a grand house in miniature, this is a Baroque church, made in exotic woods, ivory, gilt bronze and semi-precious stones. It looks like a piece of grand architecture, but it was also used to house prized possessions and store important documents. This helps explain why its many drawers are hidden. The painting behind me is by Angelica Kaufmann, arguably the most important female artist of the 18th century. It's an allegorical self-portrait, showing her moment of choice between the easy option of a career in music or the more difficult path, symbolised by the temple at the top of the hill, to become a successful female painter. The picture symbolises how, over the previous 50 years, Nostell had prospered due to the Wynnes finally achieving significant wealth through industry. In so doing, they continued to acquire treasures, all of which add to the richness of the collection today. Nostell is a house of many treasures, great craftsmanship and centuries of stories. Supporting the National Trust helps us preserve special places and the unique treasures they hold, so they can be enjoyed today and for future generations. Thank you.